Now let's look at the first question. So the first question is asking us to match list 1 with list 2. So we see that this is the list 1, this 4, and this is the list 2. So these are the options, and this is a very general question, but still we will try to give an explanation so that it would be easy for us to match this two list, right? So we see that there are four terminologies. First is Leffer curve, second is Deadweight loss, third is cost theorem, and fourth is game theory options, right? So let's look at the explanation so that we get some idea what these terminologies refer to, right? So first look at the Leffer curve, right? Okay, so I have looked at the Leffer curve and I have given the reference for this terminology that I am looking at a book called Survey of Economics. It is by economist called Tucker. You can find this online. I will be putting a link for this. And we know that Leffer curve is coming from the supply side economics. Okay, this is from supply side economics. And this is relatively a new phenomenon, and it is discovered in 1960s, and it is by Arthur Leffer. Okay, his name is Arthur Leffer, and he has given this terminology using a paper napkin, and he has explained this phenomenon with a figure. So this is the figure, right? So we see that in this figure, uh, the hypothetical Leffer curve is drawn with the federal tax rate on the horizontal line, right? So this is the federal tax rate on the horizontal line. And we see that the federal tax revenue, it is on the vertical line, right? And the idea is that the federal tax rate, which is on the horizontal line, it affects the incentive for people to work, to save, invest, and produce. And we know that the tax rate is affecting these four factors and others, and these are influencing the tax revenue collected by the federation, right? So this is the idea, and this is the figure. Now let's uh, imagine this in a particular example. So let's suppose that a federal government is imposing a tax rate of 0. Okay, so it is here, it is 0. So when tax rate is 0, people have maximum incentive to produce. So the production will is rising, right? People have maximum incentive. The incentive is rising. And the optimum national income would be earned in this. But there is 0 tax revenue. So tax revenue is 0. Okay? Now imagine a different scenario that federal government is setting a tax rate at an opposite extreme of 100%, somewhere here at point D. Now we see that at a 100% income tax rate, people will have no reason to work, no reason to produce, and to earn income. So they will be trying to reduce their tax liabilities by engaging in sort of unreported income, or undertaking some underground transactions, or by not working. So production will go down, incentive is going down, again income will go down, right? So this is for 100% tax rate. So the idea is that the government, the tax rate will be affecting the tax revenue, and the tax rate should be formulated in such way. Okay, now let's look at the second option, which is deadweight loss, right? It is a very common term used in microeconomics, especially in the context of consumer theory. So, in simple words, deadweight loss, which is measured in a triangle, right? So this is the triangle. So this triangle is the deadweight loss, B and C. So this is a net loss to total consumer plus producer surplus. So this is both the consumer and producer surplus. So this is the deadweight loss, right? So the idea is that with the estimation of consumer and producer surplus, we are finding sort of some kind of welfare effects of government intervention in the market. So whatever government is doing, we can find out the consumer surplus, how much consumer is getting a surplus and how much producers are getting a surplus. So that is the idea. Now when we suppose that government is imposing a price ceiling, right? So there is a price ceiling, how much the price can be set, a certain limit. So what will be the effect of that? And we might have some questions like what is the effect of this price ceiling on consumers and producer surplus? And is the loss to producers from price control or the price ceiling offset by the gains to consumers? That is, whether producer surplus is greater than consumer surplus and whether that can offset the deadweight loss. To answer the first question, that is whether the effect on what is the effect on consumers and producer surplus, we see that some people will be better off, right? So as there is a price ceiling, some consumers will be better off as they will be able to buy the goods at lower price, and some will be worse off as they will be rationed out as production will fall. So this is measured in this area A. So this is the consumer surplus gained by a group, and this B is the consumer surplus gained by loss uh, by group 2. So this is the gain by group first group, and this is a loss by second group. So we need that this is a greater, right? This A is greater, so A is greater than B. So the effect is overall effect is positive, right? Now when we look at the producer, so when we look at the producer, we see that some people are selling at lower price, that is Q1. So here we see that some people are selling at lower price. I apologize for the inconvenience. So let's resume. So we see that the producer will be selling at lower price. Some producer will be selling at lower price Q1 and they will stay in the market, and some will leave the market, and we see that the C area is the loss, right? Let me erase this all. Okay, now see that this C area, this C is the loss due to the market loss as people are leaving the market. So we see that the net change is negative, right? So we know that the deadweight loss is the net loss to total surplus, which is consumer plus producer surplus. So we see that the net loss, uh, the net loss of total surplus will be measured by the summation of this B and C. Okay, these two triangles or this whole triangle. This, okay, let me remove this. Okay, after erase it, okay, let's see this triangle. So this area, that is the summation of loss of consumer and the loss of producer, will be equal to deadweight loss, right? So this is the net loss, and we see that to answer the second question, that is whether the loss to producers from price control is offset by gain to consumers, the answer is no, because the loss in producer surplus will outweigh the gains in consumer surplus. Okay? Okay, fine. Let's go to the next question. Okay, so the next question or the next option is dominant strategy, right? So basically we see that it is found in the theory of game, right? The game theory. Okay, so the reference for this is you can refer to Martin J. Osborne. So it is in the book called An Introduction to Game Theory. So I will provide the link for this book. So it's very simple that the game is called Prisoner's Dilemma. So there are two prisoners, player 1, player 2. So they can confess or they can think or not confess. So they will have some kind of payoffs. So these are payoffs. It's called payoff matrix. So these are the payoffs, right? So there are some strategies which for each player which is the best response. That is the best regardless of what the opponent chooses, right? So this is called a dominant strategy. So this is a game theory option, right? Now let's look at the next option, which is cause theorem. So cause theorem is a very important concept in environmental economics. You can refer to the original article by Ronald Coase. It is called Problem of Social Cost, 1960. Also, there is a book by Pierce and Turner. Okay, so the idea of property, the idea of the cause theorem is if the property rights are well defined and the transaction costs are low, then the externalities could be overcome without any government intervention. So it overcomes the problems faced by the earlier economics theories that there need to be government intervention. Okay, government intervention. So this theory says that no, it is not required. Private bargaining could be could reach a better outcome, an efficient outcome when the property rights are well defined and transaction costs are low. So the assumptions for this theorem is that the externalities are there. There is a perfect information among those people involving in the bargaining. Both of the people have the price taking behavior. There is a costless system for enforcing agreements in courts. Okay, and again there is no transaction cost. Is very important. Further, the utility maximization and profit maximization are expected among those people. So let's look at the next op. So let's look at the match the following question. Okay, let me erase this. So it's very simple that we know that the first option, that is effectiveness in private market in dealing with externalities, is cost theorem, right? Second, we see that the relationship between increase in tax rate and tax revenue, it is Leffer curve, right? Dominant strategy is obviously game theory options, and controlling prices through effective price ceiling and price floor that we have talked about is deadweight loss. So basically A is 3, A3, B is 1, A3B1, C is 4, A3B1 C4, and D is 2. So the answer is 1. So this is how we solve the first question with explanation. We will continue this video in the other lecture. Thank you for watching.